Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is DEFETCH Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DEFTech. This podcast will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with the potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions to our nation.
Our next speaker is Ms. Kelley Kiernan, who is the Chief Technology Officer and Blue Cyber Director for the Department of Navy SBIR STTR Program Office. She comes on loan, I found this interesting, from the Air Force, AFWERX, who apparently started this program. And she also has experience in industry with NASA as an Air Force officer, as a commercial pilot, as an engineer and a scientist. The only disappointing thing I saw on her resume was she's an Air Force Academy grad, which those of us from West Point, we don't care too much for. But regardless, we welcome Kelley and we look forward to her comments. So Kelley, over to you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. And I'm so glad to be here. And let's be clear that the reason why I'm here is because Bob Smith at the Department of Navy SBIR wants to make sure that you have every resource available to you to secure your small business and your intellectual property. Stop, period. That's the end of it. It's also true, though, that at the same time when you're doing that, you're going to be protecting Department of the Navy and Department of Defense controlled and classified information. We're very interested in protecting that, too. So we have the same goals. You want to protect your intellectual property. We want to protect our CUI. So let's talk about how the Department of the Navy Cyber Program can help you do that. Next slide, please. So our program called the Blue Cyber Initiative has one singular goal, which is very easy to manage. Ensure no small business contractor or future contractor is sitting with any cybersecurity or information protection question. That is my mission, and I love it. And it's easy to do. So how do we do it? We do daily office hours, and I'm not exaggerating. Every day, I'm available to talk to small businesses about their cybersecurity journey and advise them on the arduous process they have if they have a DoD contract of implementing the NIST P800-171. Every week, every Tuesday, for the last 70 days in a row, we have done a Blue Cyber Ask Me Anything cybersecurity webinar for small business. You do not have to be a CIBR to come. It's useful for any small business. I even have people who aren't small businesses show up. Then every month we have a boot camp and where we go kind of soup to nuts on some subject. And we do that using the 40 cybersecurity presentations and videos we have developed based upon the questions that we get asked. It's always free and it's always public. In FY22, we did outreach to 11,000 U.S. small businesses, and I'm currently speaking with over 120 small businesses a week. So if you know somebody who's working more closely with small businesses than 120 conversations a week, I would love to talk to them because we should compare notes. We do a lot of CIBRs and sitters, over 6,000 almost in FY22, and it's all about providing you with resources. Next slide, please. So I want to make sure everybody knows the threat is real, okay? We know from the DoD Cybercrime Center that small businesses are being phished, right? That is the number one way they're getting to you. And that is the number one resource I'm going to give you back is all the training and education on how to train your employees to recognize a phishing email or social media or what have you. Next slide, please. Our content goes, again, kind of soup to nuts here. How to harden Microsoft Windows, because it comes out of the box pretty hardened, but you can make it better if you want to protect your intellectual property. What is zero trust for small business? Okay, that's a very popular one. How to get your spurs on. That one's supposed to make you chuckle. to make sure you can use the SPIR system. What in the heck is CUI? Is one of our presentations. Where did these chips come from? If you want to wade yourself into the CSCRIM program. Anyway, we have a lot to do. Where to begin with NIST SP 800-171? Questions to ask an IT service provider. All kinds of things just for you, small business. The Department of Navy SBIR program wants to support. Next slide, please. So again, Bob Smith at Department of Navy SBIR says, let's give them what they need. And what you need sometimes is a long conversation where you can go from beginning concepts to more mature concepts. So we're going to take on April 27th and 28th, 2 days, and go over the whole of the NIST SP 800-171. It says 6 hours. There's actually going to take 8 hours. And the reason we're doing that is not because you as a tiny, small, if you are a micro, small business, less than 30 employees, you don't even have your own IT. So are you going to implement NIST SP 800-171 by yourself? Nope, you're not. You're going to have to contract for it. And so rather than all the sad conversations I get on my office hours where, hey, Kelley, we just won this innovation money and we won a contest and we've got this great thing and Navy needs it or Army needs it or Air Force needs it. But our cybersecurity is not in order, right? Or we think we got hacked last week, right? So you're going to need to contract for help. And so that's what this presentation, this boot camp's about, so that you contract for what you really need, because there's an awful lot of people out there trying to sell you things that you don't need. So that's what this one's about. And it's actually next week on Thursday and Friday. Next slide, please. Then there's a lot of small businesses that do not handle CUI. So these would not be SBIRs and SITRs. But again, the Department of the Navy SBIR program wants to make sure that we are being comprehensive. So if you're a supplier, you're a vendor, there are also basic cyber hygiene requirements for you. And so once a month for 2 hours, we go over those. That's the FAR 5220421, which has been in every small business contract since 2013. And it's just basic sense. It's the kind of thing that any adult walking the earth in 2023 had better be doing, or you're going to lose your bank account information. It is also, coincidentally, the proposed CMMC level 1. So we're going to do that for you every month. I'm just trying to figure out the date in May. It's not the first 2 Tuesdays in May. It's looking like the 3rd Tuesday in May. But you'll be able to find out because all of our events are on SBIR.gov/events. And remember, you don't need to be a SBIR to go to SBIR.gov.
Bob, I think we lost Kelley. Is anyone else on?
I can hear you.
Yeah, she's frozen. I don't know if you got a way to contact her.
I'll give her a call. Yeah, she's frozen up on that. Why don't we go ahead and take her slides down, and let's go ahead and do some Q&A until we can get her back on. Bob, would you go ahead and run the Q&A while I give Kelley a call?
All right, great call. All right. Well, again, Kelley's not on, but we do have the Army and the Navy on, so this is your chance to ask those hard questions, those burning questions that have maybe been keeping you from entering the SBIR and STTR space. So please raise your hand. Love for you to come on video on mic. It'd be great. And ask those questions in person. That's the unique part about the coffee calls. We like to get down and personal, get to know you, and get to hear your questions live, as live as we can.
And since we can, because you got the Army and the Navy here, we both can agree that we have the best programs in DoD.
Absolutely. There's Kelley.
Sorry about that. Can we keep going?
Okay, we got you back, Kelley. Go ahead, Bob. We put the slides back up.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
It's okay.
I did get a little note, though, that I now have all the teams updated. So.
Well, we're thinking maybe your cyber went down. We thought maybe you needed some training on that or something, you know.
All right. So I think can we go back one slide just so I can? Okay. So again, there we are. One Tuesday a month, we're going to do federal contracting, protecting federal contracting information. Next slide, please. So every Tuesday on the next slide, there we go. Well, there was one slide there before. Every Tuesday, we have our every Tuesday webinars. And so that's the Ask Me Anything, right? And you can see that at SBIR.gov/events every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Then next slide, please. And then we talked about every day we have office hours. There's the lineup, the kind of thingy coming up. So we just did one on losing intellectual property, which was social engineering. Here comes the DoD's 3 most common findings on NIST SP 800-171 audits. brought to you by the Purdue NIST Manufacturing Extension Program. There's our boot camp. And then on May 2nd, all resources available for you at CISA.gov. Next slide, please. Again, all our stuff's on CIBR.gov, and you don't have to be a CIBR to go there, CIBR.gov/events. Next slide. And we're going to take you through all the FARs and DFARs in that small business contract that you get with the DoD, including the new one that just came out last month, and how you're going to flow those down to your subs. Of course, the elephant in the room. Next slide. Okay, I want to make sure you know we're aligned with the SBA. We were part of their Cyber Summit, their first Cyber Summit in October, and one of the 9 speakers that they had there. And we're very proud of that fact. And it's brought to you once again by the Department of the Navy. Next slide. Again, Department of the Navy CIBR program has their finger on the pulse of the CMMC 2.0 ecosystem. The first real summit that was had by the Cyber Aid, we were asked to come and speak. And we're keeping track. Next slide, please. And here's the beautiful Blue Cyber webpage, which I put in the chat just a few minutes ago. All created just for you. All of our events, the link for the office hours. That's where you sign up for office hours. All of our videos, all of our presentations, flyers, resources, handouts, things like that. And a link straight to me. Next slide. And then just very quickly, just to make sure you leave here with something you can use. Next slide, please. Want to make sure you know CISA is saying shields up organizations large and small. And so that means, next slide, please. If you have a DoD contract, you can head over to NSA, and they have thousands of dollars free service you if you have a DoD contract. Vulnerability scanning and mitigation. Anybody will give you a vulnerability scan? Almost nobody will give you the mitigation without making you pay, but NSA will. It's all done by sending it to that div_defense@cyber.nsa.gov. Next slide. And if you don't have a DoD contract, or you can head on over to CISA.gov services catalog. Once again, free services available to you, and they are comparable to the ones being offered by the NSA. Once again, all free. Once again, thousands of dollars of free services right here for you. Next slide, please. Okay, you've got to know who your Apex Accelerator is. If you don't, my friends, there's a hole in your pocket. These folks have their fingers on the pulse of what's happening in your local town. So if you need cybersecurity help, they're the ones that are going to tell you what the experience of other small businesses are in your local ecosystem and who can help. Next slide, please. And then you've got to know who your NIST MEP center is. So there in North Carolina, you have a very robust system, but I'd be happy to introduce you to those folks if you don't know them, but they've probably been on this call before. This is your single best source of cybersecurity help if you have a DoD contract. Why? Well, many of the NIST MEP centers have a DoD grant to subsidize their help to you when it comes to small business or DoD cybersecurity. Next slide. Remember that Project Spectrum's out there. They've got some wonderful educational materials, and they've got a tool that'll help you create your SPIR score. And then, of course, cyber.gov/local-assistance is where you can find all of this in the same place. Next slide. All right, one more time. There's my email. There's a link to that beautiful Blue Cyber webpage brought to you by the Department of Navy Program and Bob Smith. And I'll take any questions.
Well, Kelley, thank you very much. You've become truly a joint officer now, going from the Air Force over to the Navy. Now we just need to get you over to the primary service, the Army. Get you over there. So, Matt, I hope you're able to maybe steal Kelley away from Bob. I don't know. But look, I appreciate everybody, Matt, Bob, and Kelley, for your time today. It's been very informative, so content rich. You can probably see on my paper, I have 3 sheets of paper written down with notes as well as questions. But I'm going to defer my questions and allow folks online, since we're running out of time, to go ahead, raise your hand. We'll call on you, and you can ask any of the speakers anything you want, but please keep your question to 1 and keep it succinct. Go ahead and raise your hand when you're ready. And Emil, for you, the folks in your room, if you just let me know, just go ahead and tune in and let me know if anybody there has a question. I know you have 20 or so people in your room up at First Flight Venture Center. Okay, well, they're doing that. I want to just go ahead then, and I'll start with a couple questions that I have. And these first 2 questions go to Dr. Willis and Mr. Smith. One of the biggest problems that we have in our counseling for companies to want to apply for a Phase 1 SBIR is how daunting the application process is. And it sounds like the Navy now has boiled it down to 10 pages, but that might not be as easy as it sounds based on what Mr. Smith said. But I know that the Army program can be one of these big full-up proposals that you usually have to hire someone if you've never done it before to do, and that can cost $10,000 to $20,000. So I'll start with Dr. Willis. Can you address that, how the Army's trying to make it a little easier for people to apply? Over.
So yeah, Denny, what I would say is that is no longer the case and hasn't been for a few years. So we actually, and maybe, maybe like you said, having distilled thoughts can be challenging. But so actually our phase 1 proposals are 5 pages. So again, and with the thought being that, we're just looking for, we're not trying to put this huge burden. You're right, because writing a 40-page proposal for a $250,000 award is crazy. There's really no need to get into that level of technical detail for a proof of principle thing here. So, so we try to, so for instance, we had a recent open artificial intelligence machine learning topic. So basically anything within that. And the proposal requirement was a 5-page white paper and a 5-slide commercialization strategy. And we provide the templates, and all you have to do is follow the template. So again, we're trying to make this as easy as possible. So we no longer have those long, arduous 40-page proposals.
Well, that's great to hear. That's good. So basically now the Navy went to 10 pages. The Army's going to name that tune in 5 pages. So, Bob, any response to that?
Yeah, a couple of them. One, it's great. And you'll see that in our open topic. It's different. It's always a challenge for all of us as to where's the sweet spot to where you, the taxpayer, are comfortable with us, the government, doing the analysis fair to all the participants. So how does your 5-page or 10-page proposal address what that technical person is looking for? And how do they determine from 5 pages or 10 pages that one proposal is better than the other 22 proposals?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where we struggle with what's right and fair and doable. And I can say we went from 20 to 10, and it was tough for our community, our technical community, to adjust to, I don't have enough information. Well, you'll never have enough information, people, but that's the nature of being an engineer and a scientist. Is this enough for you to make that $240,000 decision on behalf of the Navy? Okay. And they don't make the decision. They make the selection based on the technical. We defer to them, and then we go through the contracting process. Don't get me wrong. So that we go back and forth. And we're kind of there, but we're also experimenting with that open topic with less. Can we still achieve our objective with less information provided? And it's not an easy call.
Well, that's a good point. Good point. I do want to kind of commend the Army and the Navy for working together. There was something that came out of the Office of Naval Research called Global X Challenge, and it was sent to some of our folks by the Army SBIR program, which we found kind of confusing to us. Said, is this an Army X Tech search thing, or is this a Navy Global Challenge thing? And it looks like it's the Navy Global Challenge. The problem was we in our network didn't get it till the afternoon of the day that morning when you were having your first call. So you gave us a lot of websites to go to. Is there a place in the Navy and Army that people can sign up for to be notified of any new things coming out? Or do you just have to go and navigate the SBIR.gov website? Is there a place you can go and sign up? Then you'll automatically be fed a notice of a change or a notice of a new solicitation. Over.
There's a couple different places. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, no, I was just going to say that we do have listservs for the SBIR and XTech program, or both, right? So then you're automatically notified when a new topic's released or new XTech program's released.
Okay, we can find that on your websites then.
Correct. Same thing with Navy SBIR. But also, herein lies the challenge for a lot of people is, I don't want to call it attention span, is I can't watch everything. So I could easily tell you, well, just sign up for Fed Biz Ops. I don't have the time to do that because there's the SBIR program. Remember, we're the 3% program, right? The other commands, they're still sending out solicitations for the other 97 cents on the dollar. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are going to be other folks putting out solicitations. So how do I keep track? Part of it is starting off and deciding who is going to be my first customer. Not all of my customers. Let's just work with one for right now. So if you're a research firm, it's SBIR. And then you got to sign it. Am I going to line close to the Army, Navy, the Air Force? If you're a service material provider, you don't need SBIR. You need to go to the Office of Small Business Programs and sign up to their listserv and understand how they do business with the Navy. I sometimes talk about what Matt and I do is if back in the old days when none of us do it anymore, back in the old days, remember we used to go to the mall and you went to the information center so they could tell you where to go find the store you're looking for, so you didn't have to wander the mall for hours. Okay, that's what SBIR does. We're going to try to get you to the right door. Okay, but you still got to do some work when you get there.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that we found in our ecosystem that DEFETCH tries to do. We try to stay and we check all the sites as much as we can, but we still miss some. And I know we're signed up for notifications wherever we can, but we missed for example, the Global X Challenge when it came out on the 18th of April. And, we have a small staff, but we try to do that because a lot of small businesses, God bless them, they don't have the staff to be checking things every day and they just get, as you mentioned, Bob, they get busy with their head down, chasing the technology and not doing so much of the business development. So we try to help with that.
Yeah.
And
that comes back to SBIR.gov. You can go search their database to kind of get a feel for where your technology is going to match up. You may not be a Navy or Army customer. You may not be a DoD company, but you might fit right well with HHS or NIH or NASA or DOE. So don't think we're the only game in town. There's $4 billion of game out there.
Yeah, we're probably pretty heavy down here in North Carolina with primarily probably NIH and National Science Foundation, but given our big footprint with DOD here in North Carolina with all the war fighters and all the work that's being done with them, we just wanted to make sure that folks were more cognizant of the DOD side of things. Let me flip for a second. I still don't see hands up. I think people are probably being a little bit shy here, which is unlike this particular group. Let me shift over to Kelley. Kelley, what you gave, there's so much stuff out for a small business to have to try to figure out. It sounds to me like maybe if they haven't done it before, they need to start. The start point would be maybe a boot camp or your monthly meeting before they start digging into all the different resources. And by the way, for folks on the call, all these slides will be made available with all this contact information there. If you're on our match, if you're in our network, we'll make that available. Bob will be putting that out. But Kelley, can you address for someone that's never worked with you before and they can't digest all the information you gave us, what's the best start point? Over.
So there are many, many resources that you can find. So we have to realize that cybersecurity has to become a habit, right? Like brushing your teeth, right? You make sure that the accounting system you have is a good one. And if you're doing business with the government, you even have to get your accounting system authorized. It's going to be the same thing with cybersecurity. Really fast. If you don't have cybersecurity for your small business, you're not going to have a small business. You're going to get hacked. So I apologize for that noise in the background. So Blue Cyber has, again, if you are just needing basic cyber hygiene, on cyber.gov/events, you'll see our basic walk of basic cyber hygiene once a month. That's a wonderful place to start. There's also Blue Cyber called Where to Begin with NIST SP 800-171. That's another great place. It'll help you understand the concept of inventories, the data that you're trying to protect, how the data flows through, right? So that's the way to begin then with the Blue Cyber that happens every month called Basic Cyber Hygiene, or some of our videos on the Blue Cyber webpage, or specifically the video called Where to Begin.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTECH. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual contributors. As indicated, DEFTECH does not take responsibility for those statements or opinions and accepts no responsibility or liability for any inaccuracy or omissions reported during this program. The content and interviews are fair use for instructional purposes and to build awareness for the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is just another free service provided to you to access more national security and business collaboration opportunities. You can sign up for more information at defetech.nc.gov. Join us soon for the next podcast coming to a platform near you. DefTech is a subsidiary of the North Carolina Military Business Center and receives its support from Fayetteville Technical Community College.